Welcome back to the Act Two podcast, a podcast for the real life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I'm Josh Hallman.
And we are Act Two.
We're freaking Act Two. We're back.
Network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This podcast is just one of the things we do. Thank you for joining us here.
So,
yes.
I'm just going to cut you off.
I think so.
All right, Tasha, this is what happened.
Yeah.
We had a full episode planned for this podcast.
Yeah.
We signed on. And I said, Tasha, you just had a show premiere.
Yeah.
We need to talk about it.
You did. I did all my homework. I have all my notes here for a November edition. Are you excited? And we're just fucking not doing it.
This could not be more appropriate based off of the personalities in which we share.
100%.
I was actually thinking about this yesterday. All right, just to be transparent, this is a few days right before the premiere, or the actual premiere of Mighty NEIN. We're recording this a few days beforehand.
Yeah.
And you just had the premiere.
Yeah.
And I was like I saw photos and we were talking and I was just like, how are we not talking about this?
We just have an energy here.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense to me. We're just going to say, hey, Tasha has got a new show. But you were the showrunner of Mighty NEIN.
Yeah.
It is on Amazon.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of questions, and I feel like I can ask you questions that are important to the Act Two podcast because we can get into the process, we can get into the writer's room a little bit, we can get into show running a little bit, we can get into the animation, we can get into the questions, the editing, the freaking what the premiere was like. We can talk about all of these things because this is a big deal to have a show come out, and I can't even believe I even entertained the idea of not doing this. It just bugs me that I just like rolled over on the text. I was like, yeah, all right, we'll just do the other one.
I know I'm not good at like promoting myself, and I'm like gee shucks, I'd love if you saw my show, but okay. Hey, I got a show, but
Gee fucking shucks, you're watching Mighty NEIN. You just spent much of your life devoted to something.
I did. And we're a screenwriting podcast. It makes sense to talk about what the fuck just happened.
Okay. So, how was your premiere?
It was great. It was also terrible.
Oh.
No, it wasn't at all. But you're a writer, right? You're a writer. You spend all your time alone in quiet spaces in your own head. And then suddenly you're like thrust into, like, I walked into the building with my husband, and like this woman grabs me and like puts a hand at my husband like a stop sign and is like, you stay here. You're not going this way. Tasha's going this way. And then suddenly you're just like, there's lights and everyone's yelling at you to turn this way and look over there and do this and move 2 steps that way. And then someone else is dragging you to go talk to this person who's doing press. And what was hilarious, also being a writer, is 3 different people were like, so what character do you play? And what's something you could say about your character? And I was like, oh, I don't play a character. I'm the writer. And you could, like, the look on their face is like, oh, I don't have questions for you.
Yeah,
I don't
keep moving.
Yeah.
Did anyone try to muster up what was the writing process like?
Yes, actually, absolutely. They tried to recover. They're like,
Well, don't answer what you said because I'm going to ask that question.
Okay.
This is the beauty, by the way, of premieres, I think, and especially when certain shows are on streamers, Netflix, in your case, Amazon, anything. When you see it on a big screen with a group of people, there's nothing like it.
There's nothing like it, and we'll never get to have it again because it's going to be on everyone's TV or phone or iPad or wherever they're going to watch it, and they're going to be watching it alone or with their significant other and not me.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't get to experience it. That was the time, and it was so cool because, I don't know, there's so much work that gets put into things and so much attention to every single frame and detail that to sit back and actually have people enjoy it as a whole. And they were like laughing at certain places, they were gasping at places, and you remember writing that joke, you remember rewriting that joke 5 times and wondering if it's ever going to work, and then there they are laughing. It's kind of a insane, surreal experience as a writer.
Did you cry?
I almost cried because Paul started almost crying. There's a thing that happens in the pilot that, if you're not a fan of the Mighty Nine, or Critical Role, like it's a good moment. It's an emotional moment. But if you are a fan and you know what's behind the moment, it is like a gut punch. And I could feel him like start to tear up there, and like I started to tear up. I think just having my husband react to me in the chair next to me was very emotional for me, because he's like seen bits and pieces when he walks into the office, but he's not seen the whole thing. And so he was laughing and like really enjoying. He's a fan of the Mighty Nine, like the live show. So just seeing him really happy made me very happy.
Well, this is actually, I don't mean to quickly transition out of the premiere, but I feel like you've said some things that are very appropriate now to say, what is the Mighty Nine? You just said a live show.
Yeah.
He's familiar with Critical Role. So can you take us, go a step back and just lay out what we're getting ourselves into?
Yeah, I think this is a literal Josh question. I don't think you know.
This is for sure. I have no idea what you've been working on.
It's so weird. I share everything with the writers group, but I've never shared a single script of this ever.
It is weird. We like forgot you were doing it.
Yeah.
I will say though, I do know, because of you, I do know what Critical Role is.
And because don't you have someone in your family who's a Critical Role fan?
Yeah, my brother-in-law, I think I messaged you years ago, like probably right when you were getting the job. And I remember him like bringing up, like, I've been watching this series called Critical Role, or, and I was like, this all sounds very familiar to me.
Why do I know that? What's Tasha been blabbering about the
like,
last few
Tasha
years?
said something. Let me look, whatever. Let me look at the notes she gave me. Can I take a stab at what I think it is, or do you want to
I would love that.
Okay. I think Critical Role was started as like a D&D game that a group of people played, and they started to post it, and it became incredibly popular. From that, there was an offshoot called the Mighty Nine that also turned into somewhat of a live show. And then you adapted that for Amazon?
That's kind of it,
Okay.
sort of. So yeah, Critical Role, if you've never heard of them, if you're wondering, if you've never played D&D and you're wondering why the fuck is D&D so popular right now? Why is it everywhere? Why did we just get a movie with Chris Pine and no one can stop talking about D&D? It's because of Critical Role. Like lots of people play D&D, of course, before Critical Role, but they made it popular, I think, in a way that like stretched beyond just super nerds. And they started as just a group of nerdy ass voice actors, as they say when they first log into the show, who just played D&D with their friends. And yes, they would put it on YouTube, as so many people do. So many people are just playing with their friends and throwing it up on YouTube because they've made good characters and it's fun to watch. But they started getting a following. And at first it was at Geek and Sundry. And then they started just blowing up, because I think the depth of storytelling that they were doing was unlike a lot of just at home normal games. The characters they were creating were really interesting, and they're actors. They're professional actors who come from anime and video, like any video game or anime or animated series you've ever seen or played, they are in it. Like I will sometimes play games from ages ago I'll go back to, or games now, and I'll be like, is that the guy I work with today? Like, is that him in that role? So you've seen them everywhere. So when they are portraying these characters in D&D, I mean, they're fully fledged, they're really well done, unlike, most nerds. And so of course they took off, and if you know what D&D is, they have campaigns, which are basically like a series. Like Game of Thrones, and then you have House of Dragons, and it takes place in the same world, but it's with different characters. So there are campaigns, and their first campaign became The Legend of Vox Machina, which is already an animated series on Amazon. And then their second campaign takes place in the same world, just like on a different continent 20 years later, and that's the Mighty Nine.
20 years later.
20 years later,
Okay.
yeah. And it's a very different feel than the Legend of Vox Machina. If you've seen that, it's more comedic and kind of sort of like classic fantasy D&D tropes, I think, but just like really heightened and exaggerated and really fun. It's a really great show. And it's also very adult. There's a lot of cursing. There's a lot of nudity. I don't know if you've seen it, Josh, but like in the first episode, you see penis.
Oh, really? Like
Yeah.
a human penis?
It's a gnome.
Jesus. I've never heard it phrased that way. You see penis.
You see penis. But the Mighty Nine is like adult in a different way. It's like more elevated storytelling. I mean, you know the kind of stories I like to tell. It's, it's a little closer to like Game of Thrones style storytelling.
And Mighty Nine is appropriate for what would be the age range if you were to lay it out? Am I watching it with Amelia, my 10-year-old?
I mean, I would love you to give it a shot.
Okay. Are there swears?
There's cussing, there's cursing, and there's violent death.
Oh.
But it's animated.
Okay.
So it's a little, it's blood, but is it blood? It's just drawing, just red drawings.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's how kids interpret that kind of stuff. Okay, so had you been aware of the Mighty Nine prior to getting the job?
Yes.
How were you aware of it?
I watched all of it. I love the Mighty Nine so much. I watched the live show. So your friend or your brother-in-law who loves the Mighty Nine, like I'm doing the same thing. It was it's both a podcast you can listen to in the car, or it's you can watch it on YouTube. And I would do both. I would watch it on YouTube and then go in the car and drive and immediately pick up from there as well. And I was obsessed. I was like binging it. And they're 4 hours per episode. It's not a game. If you're investing, you're investing.
All right, so this is important. Are you okay to talk about how you got the job?
Yes.
Did you pitch on it?
Sort of. I think it's an interesting writer story because we talk so much on this podcast about the importance of networking, or not even just networking, but like knowing people who are in this industry. And also the importance when you are networking to make friends, not to make business friends, to make friends. And getting this job is a prime example of how that works in this industry, because people want to work with people they love. They want to promote and give jobs to people that they know and love. And I was playing D&D with Cousin Pete, who we all know was my first manager.
Yeah, who declined to come on the podcast. Yep.
Yeah. Fuck you guys. Cousin Pete and a couple of friends of his, one of whom was is still an agent at CAA. And as we were playing D&D, it was clear that I was a huge fan of the Mighty Nine. I was just like sprinkle in little like nerd things that were from the Mighty Nine, or I would talk about Critical Role a lot. And they're like, shut up, Tasha, already. But it was interesting because that CAA agent ended up representing Critical Role while we were in our campaign in D&D.
Okay.
So he sort of got that account basically while we were playing D&D. And like a year later, our D&D campaign was over, and he's the one who recommended me for the job when they started talking to him about, hey, we want to do Mighty Nine as a show. And also, like, hand in hand with that, the executive that was now kind of running the development at Critical Role, their feature and TV development, was someone I knew when I was an assistant. And we were working on some of the same movies together when we were coming up in the industry. So when, this agent mentioned Tasha, that executive was like, oh, I know Tasha. Let me reconnect with her. And like, that was the first meeting.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and then it kind of went from there, and I started meeting more and more people from Critical Role, and it became very clear very quickly how much of a fan I was because I couldn't contain it. I was like meeting the stars of like my favorite show.
Sure.
And so that just like that nerddom I think just comes out, or like that passion I think comes out, and we all clearly like loved all of the same stuff. You know, we were inspired by some of the same references, and to say I pitched on it is like it wasn't that formal in a way.
I see.
Like I think I say this as a joke, but I don't think it is. Like I'm like the only showrunner in the world who's watched all 600 hours of the Mighty Nine.
Yeah.
So like who else would they have hired? Like, they couldn't, like they were stuck.
You're bringing up two really interesting points. Number one, you have to be a fan of the material
Yeah.
with something like this. I think, unless you're like Tony Gilroy taking over the Star Wars universe, but it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a group of people who started on YouTube, essentially. These are like very close friends. And
Yeah.
I've been around those types of people who have created something that, not to this extent, but you're very precious with it. And this is your baby. This is something you've created from nothing to now it's this. And so it is actually hard for outsiders to kind of enter that inner circle, in my opinion, I think.
It is. And as a writer, when I was told, because a typical writing show running situation with IP is you get hired, the IP owners are like, great, we love your take, come on board. And then go do your thing, writer. Go run your show. And, you know, we'll give notes occasionally on scripts and stuff, and we'll sort of guide the process that way. But go do your thing, writer. And it wasn't that at all. From the very get-go, I was told that, you know, Critical Role would be in the writer's room, and they would have their opinions were going to be equal to mine. We're all executive producers on the show. And as a writer coming into something new, especially because all I knew about them was that they were nerdy ass voice actors, right? they're the voice actor, they're the star, the cast of the show that I love. As a writer, I got very nervous because I didn't know how are you going to manage that? I don't know what their personalities are like. I don't know, like, are they good at writing? or is that going to be a real struggle? And it's honestly like the biggest blessing that when we got into the room, they are really good writers. They are
That's amazing.
really good creators, and they are not precious about their IP as much as they are, which is weird to say. Like, of course, their IP is so special and it's everything you're saying, as it is to me as a fan. But if I pitched something that was like, we have to take the story this way because this is the only way the story will make sense, they were like, yes, let's do that. We don't have to hang on to the exact way that this IP played out. We just need to tell the best story. And as long as we're staying true to the characters and we're staying true to the world, then let's go for it. Which is something we talk about all the time when we talk about adaptation, is like sometimes you can't just adapt one for one the thing. In fact, you almost never can. You have to take the spirit of the thing, and because it's a totally new format, right? And they 100% already knew that. I think they learned so many lessons on Legend of Vox Machina that also reinforced that they're ready to go. And that I feel like I will never have this kind of partnership again. They are the most egoless people you will ever meet.
Yeah, it sounds like the true essence of a collaboration happened inside of this writer's room.
Yes, and it's like now all that I will allow, I feel like. If you're in a room and you're not that collaborative and you're not that egoless, what are we doing here? We don't need that.
It's probably going to be hard to replicate as well, because it does seem like such a unique, singular instance where it's like this group of friends, for lack of a better term, just created something, and now it's like, holy shit, we're on Amazon?
Yeah.
What? Like, I'm sure that it's like kind of like pinch yourself if you're in their position of like, how the hell did this even happen? Like, I don't understand.
I think they always are too, which is really cute.
So, adaptation of Mighty Nine. How did you start choosing? Because if you're talking about there's like 600 episodes of Critical Role.
Hours.
I feel like, again, you've told me you're doing this. Like, oh, I'm watching something. And I'm just like, in my brain, I'm like, there's no way she's actually.
There's no way I told you I was watching this, because even now, years later, I don't think you still understand what it is. Like, just like how it functions. So I don't think I just would ever have been like, hey, Josh, I'm watching the Mighty Nine. Because you would have been like, okay, Tasha, whatever.
All right. Well. I am so excited for you.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
So how did you figure out a starting point? Like, how does this, like, what, where you're like, okay, we got it. Where do we start the Mighty Nine? We've got 600 hours of material. What do we do?
Yeah. It's actually, again, everything we talk about this podcast started with character.
Yeah.
We all sat in a room, me and all the cast who play all the characters in the show, and I came with a shit ton of questions that I had for each of them, each of the characters and the actors who played them, and just started building story from their answers, right? I mean, you have, of course, a framework and a full story with the 600 hours, but it's way too full. It's 600 hours worth of content. And D&D is insane. It's a live show and it's all improv. And as someone who has done improv, Josh,
Correct.
you know
Yeah.
how insane it can go, and that's how D&D is. In a TV show, by nature, has to be fairly linear and comprehensible, and accessible, and not be confusing, all these things. And so, knowing that and then sitting down with the characters for a few hours, a couple of days in that first week, we started to craft, okay, what are the things that are most important to us, at least in this early season, right? Like, let's just focus. We know what the end game is because we've seen the whole show. So we know what we're getting to, but like, what is the first season going to be? What are we supposed to care about? Also, what is the best entry for people who have never seen this show? Because now that you have a television show on Amazon Prime, it's going to be accessible to people like you, people who would never sign on to their YouTube channel and watch an hour or minute of Critical Role.
This is interesting to me because when it comes to adaptations, like whether it be this scenario or a book or even if you're like rewriting something or whatever it is, like when people kind of latch on to one idea or one character or one kind of plot point, where if you're watching or you're listening to something, you're like, that needs to be in it. This needs to be in it. This character has to have this kind of arc. And,
Yeah.
but so you knew what you were working towards. This is like, in Batman terms, you're like, he's got to die at the end, and we got to
Right.
figure out how do we reverse engineer this.
Yeah, you have to reverse engineer it. And the end.
And then how many episodes is this season?
It's 8 episodes.
Okay.
Hour long, 8 episodes.
All right. Can we talk about the process now?
Let's go.
What the hell was the writing process like? How did you do this with so many voices in the room?
Yeah.
How did you manage it? Did you take the stab at the first episode? What was the outlining like? How extensive was it? Those are all my questions.
I love writing TV so much. As I've talked to you about offline on this podcast and on podcast, it has taught me so much about how to outline and how to break story in a way that I want to take to my own original stuff, including movies. It's just such a smart way to create ideas, and really like strong ideas that are a little more bulletproof than they might be if you're just doing it on your own. Um, Process wise, we hired a writer's room, kind of like any TV show. And there were, varying degrees of people who knew the show and not, which I preferred because, again, you need someone in the room who is a voice of the everyday person who has no idea what the Mighty Nine is, what Critical Role is, what D&D is, what fantasy is. Most people were huge fans of fantasy, I will say, but it was important to have at least one person in the room who was not, which we did, and that was really helpful because they would be like, I don't get this. This is really confusing.
You're conscious of this decision to be like, we need that one person who's going to call bullshit on all of this stuff.
Yes, because if I can explain the world to him, and if he's emotionally invested in a thing he never fucking cares about,
Yeah.
like D&D, then you've done your job. Because the fans, like, as a fan, and with Sam and Travis, who are both cast members and founders of Critical Role, like, by my side, like, we will take care of making sure the fans of Mighty Nine are taken care of in the show, that they're going to have all the things that they want. But if I've failed that one person who has no idea what this is and they're just confused, then, like, what are we even doing? We've not created the proper TV show.
This is so exciting.
Yeah, so it was really cool to have that voice in the room, kind of keeping us honest on just like story itself, right? And because it's easy as a nerd to just like nerd out on a page,
Of course.
but as we all know, as writers, like you do that and you often lose a lot of people.
And then what was your like deadline?
It's so fast. Like TV is so fast, which is a big reason I didn't get to share it in writers group. It wasn't because like I don't want your opinions. It's just like there's no time. There's no time to get anyone's else's feedback. Like you're just in this loop of your break story. So you have what is it like 10 weeks? I forget. It was so long ago now. To break each season, and you first start with like what they call like blue sky, which is the first 2 weeks is just big ideas, and any idea goes on the board. It's just like, what could season one possibly be? And you could have wild ideas, right? And that's still like, okay, we'll think about that. We'll think about that. But the more those 2 weeks start to progress, the more you're like, that pitch about like going to another planet, like that goes off the board. We're not doing that. Like all the crazy ones start to go away.
Is this on index cards or whiteboard?
This is whiteboard.
God, I love a whiteboard.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay. So yeah, blue sky, first 2 weeks.
Yeah. And that's when, like me as a showrunner, I'm trying to get a handle of, okay, let's continually start to narrow down on what the season one story could be. What are we going to invest in? What's the plot story as well as the character stories? And then gradually over those 2 weeks, we start to shape a season one and a like hook or a sort of engine for season two. And because we knew we were going to get 2 seasons. And then from after those first 2 weeks, now that we have a sort of a foundation of what season one is, then we start breaking it down into individual episodes. And I come from film, and so I think in 3 acts. People who come from more traditional TV think typically in like 5 acts. I think in 3. And so we sort of looked at the season and said, okay, what are our 3 acts of the season? Meaning like the same way we talk about breaking a movie is like, what are your turning points? Because the turning points are where an audience is going to be surprised, where they're going to lean in, where they're going to have questions and want to keep watching those episodes, right? So what are those within the course of a season? And then once we had those, we could kind of be like, okay, now we sort of know what episode needs to slot into act one of our season. What episodes need to slot into what act two is. Meaning like, what does act two need to perform for us and as a story over the course of a 3-act series structure? Okay, we need our episodes to do this in act two, and we need our episodes to do this in act three, which is kind of like land the plane, right? The same way that a 3rd act in a movie needs to land the plane and be climactic and tie up a lot of loose ends, but also make you ask some new questions. And so we thought of it as a sort of a 3-act structure that way. And then you just do it again in episodes until by the end of the time in our writer's room, we have literally every single scene up on the board, up on the whiteboard, on those little magnetic index cards of every single scene that would happen in every single episode. And we pressure test it. We kick the tires, as they say. We keep looking because we can look at it. It's so helpful. Like we talk about on one of our recent episodes about like getting unstuck, right? Like just looking at it. There's so many times as a writer's room, we all just sat there and stared in silence.
There's no music playing?
No music. Absolutely not, Joshua.
Classical?
Nothing. But then, you're in silence and then a writer would go, that scene right there in that episode, something about it is bugging me. And I don't know why, but something about it doesn't feel right. And so, okay, let's trust your gut. Let's talk about why it doesn't feel right. And then eventually like a problem will arise that we'll have to solve. And so I don't know. It's like the best version of writing that you get to do with like really smart people who love the same thing you do. It's fucking the best.
So did you have to pitch the story, the season 1 story arc to Amazon at any point?
Yes. We basically like had an intensive of like, what would season 1 generally look like? And Amazon is smart. They've made many TV shows, so they understand like it's going to change in the writer's room. We just need an idea. Like, do you have a handle on what the hell is going to happen? Or are you floating blind here? And so I think I had a very clear vision for what the pilot was. particularly, and actually the pitch that I gave to Amazon changed. It actually changed a lot. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, this was before the writer's room because I broke what the season would be myself, Sam Riegel and Travis Willingham, and then, with the input of the rest of the cast talking about their characters, I broke what season 1 would be. And then we pitched that to Amazon, and they were kind of like, "That's great. Here are some notes." And that pitch started in a very different place.
Mm. Are the people you're pitching to at Amazon, are they fans of the Mighty Nine, or are they coming at it from like the executive kind of like story? Were they fans? I guess because I feel like that's somewhat important
Yeah.
in this one in
It's
particular
yeah, it's
particular instance.
interesting. They are fans, but in a different way that I'm a fan. Like they have not watched all 600 hours, or like hadn't at that point watched all 600 hours of the Mighty Nine. They had worked already on The Legend of Vox Machina, so they're very familiar with Critical Role and the guys and like how they all work, and knew that Mighty Nine was an even more popular campaign than The Legend of Vox Machina was. And they knew generally what who the characters were, and were in process of watching the show. It's a huge commitment. So like just literally time-wise, they just hadn't watched all of Mighty Nine. But we're already super on board with who they all were. And it was easier to be like, "Oh, Ashley Johnson," or Matt Mercer. It's that character. It's the character they play. And they'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, right." So yeah, it was so you're taking me back because I remember that first pitch that I gave them, that we all pitched to them, was not at all the season we ended up with.
Yeah, but that's very common though.
Very, very
Yeah,
common.
that's not out of the ordinary of
No.
like anything creative.
No.
I just want to talk about this because we've talked about this before, but like that idea of having your idea, pitching it to someone, and then having it completely change.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember if you were like, "Yeah, this is great. We're just going to evolve this into the next thing," or was it like a death blow where it was like, "Oh man, that could have been a great season"?
I think everything feels like a death blow at first,
That's
which
true. Yeah,
is
yeah.
in itself a lesson because everything that happened it made the show better. So while it feels like a death blow, I think because it feels like a setback, or it feels like I spent so much time and effort on this idea and you're telling me it doesn't work, is devastating. But what it leaves room for is better ideas. So I'm glad that the show we originally pitched is not the show we ended up doing. I don't think that show is right. It was a cool opener, but it wasn't right.
Well, you're speaking to the importance of you're very collaborative, right? So, and you take
Yeah.
ideas you handle them very well, and you have to be so as I'm speaking as a writer,
Yeah.
just the industry. It's like you just have to be so open to change and just like
You have to roll with
you have
it,
to roll with
and
it.
you can't get stuck on an idea just because it's yours. And that is very much the mentality I bring into a writer's room: is the best idea wins. I don't care if it comes from the assistant
Yeah.
or the janitor of the office who comes in, like is emptying trash and is like, "Oh, what if that?" And you're like, "Oh my God, yeah, what if that?" It doesn't matter. It's the best idea wins. And that's also something that, everyone on Critical Role also embodies, which was like when it starts from them as well, like when it starts from the showrunner and it starts from the people who own the IP, then it trickles down to everyone else. And
Yeah.
I found that the writers in the writer's room also became very not precious about their ideas. And like it becomes this thing where it's like, technically, a different writer, Tanya Lotia, wrote episode 102. But it feels like we all wrote episode 102 with Tanya. Like it's like we all wrote 101, which is the episode that I wrote it. Like we all wrote it together, and like everyone's ideas blend into each other. Like I don't remember at this point like what was my idea versus what was someone else's idea, because it's just synergy, man. It's the word I hate, Josh, but it's true. It's a thing.
I believe it. I remember years and years ago, there was a writer that I still know, and but he would always talk about his ideas with people, and he was open to taking ideas from It could be a child. It could be a barista. It could be, and
Yeah.
he was genuinely curious. And I remember it always stuck with me because I was like, oh, he's really like, sometimes these ideas just come from anywhere. Like I could be talking to, yeah, like my mom's friend who's like, oh, honey, it would be good if you did this kind of show or something. You're like, that's a great idea. Anyway.
Yeah.
So it's good you're
I
like
mean, there are
that.
plenty of times we've talked to our spouses and been like, "Oh shit, you're right. It should be this."
Oh, absolutely. And then someone just makes a throwaway comment, which is like
Yeah,
the most brilliant thing. Okay.
absolutely.
So we kind of talked about this before with Tomb Raider, but could we quickly discuss the animation style of like once the script is done
Yeah.
and then the voice actor takes it over? You can't really change. There's no like reshoots, right? Like animation's a little bit more, I don't want to say precious, but you kind of have to get it right because it costs a lot of money to reanimate something.
Yeah.
Am I incorrect about this?
I think it's both yes and no in that regard. It's interesting. It's such an interesting process. Yeah, you write the script, you have your kickoff with the director, like the supervising director who's in film terms, I guess like is the director, or in let's say live action terms, like the pilot director. No, it's not even correct. There's no other analogy. There's a supervising director in animation who directs like everything. He oversees or she oversees everything, and including direction, editing, etc. And then there underneath them are episodic directors who handle the small teams, the kind of big teams, who handle each episode, but they are underneath the umbrella of the supervising director who oversees everything, right? Similar to a writer gets one episode and then the showrunner oversees all the episodes. It's similar with directing in animation.
Okay.
And so you have that kickoff call and we walk through every single line of the episode in that kickoff call. So it'll be let's say the 101, the pilot episode, where in our kickoff call, we go through every single line of that. And the director or the episodic director that's on that show, or one of the artists, the board artists who might be on that episode, they will ask questions. They will poke holes. They will say, well, what is the thought behind this line? Why does this character say this line? Why does the character do this thing? Why do they walk across the room when they say this instead of do this? Because they have to draw it. They have to understand what's behind it. And you, as the writer, as the showrunner, have to understand why you sent that person walking across the room in that moment. And if there is no reason, then you have to explain to them what that character is feeling, what the purpose of that scene is, so that they can decide, okay, it's not walking across the room. Maybe instead it's jumping on the bed. Whatever it is, like you have to have the information to give them in that kickoff meeting, which is why I emphasize so much on this podcast to know your scenes and your characters so thoroughly that it can be pressure tested, because it will be pressure tested. And then once they have, we have all gone through that episode that way, the artist, the director, they'll go off and they will start to draw scenes, draw moments, just draw. They'll draw the show, and they'll direct it, and then you'll get back what they call animatics, which is just like those drawings kind of strung together so it feels like it's animated. And from there, you start to give notes and you start to shape the episode. You're like, okay, the jumping on the bed isn't actually quite right. Now that I'm seeing it, I'm realizing like that's not the right energy. Maybe it's more something like this. And then in these points, we can still redraw, we can still redo things. And you get like kind of like 3 rounds of notes, as it were, before it gets shipped off to whoever's going to animate it, like color it, really draw those finite lines. Because when you see it in animatic form, sometimes it can be as simple as stick figures. It's just like, here's the idea of what's going to happen in the scene. And then it gets shipped over. And by the time it gets shipped over, then it's harder to change. It's a little bit more like molded in plaster than it is malleable. And then, but once you get it back, you still get rounds of notes to do on those as well. Let's say 3. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, depending on the show. And each notes, you're refining the acting, you're refining the action, how a character moves, and hopefully you get it right by the 3rd round. And then somewhere in there, like in the animatic form, is where the voice acting comes in. And usually, well, for Critical Role, it is a very unique situation because they are all, again, professional voice actors. So they can do all the scratch right away, and they can do it well. So they can actually act.
Yeah.
A lot of times the board artist will do the scratch for their scene, and they're not actors and they're not expected to be actors. So you have like really kind of like me reading a line. Basically, it's not good.
Yeah.
But now because of Critical Role and how special they are, like they actually can act in a scene and create emotions that the artist can then be inspired by to really hone in a lot of the acting descriptions, which is always a long-winded way to say that like reshoots are very expensive. Like if we have to go animate a new shot, like when we get all the animation back and it's all colored in and everyone's doing their thing in the episode and they're moving as they should be, and we're like, fuck, we should have added a scene or we should have added a shot even that did this. That's a lot more expensive because that's, you have to start from, you have to build it all from new, you know, you have to start with the animatic and you have to build, it's like you have to rebuild the entire thing. So it's similar to doing reshoots. So you really have to know very quickly what your show is. Your edit, but that's like the cool thing with animation versus live action is you really get to you start like editing it and molding it much earlier than you would with live action.
Jesus. Okay. No, it seems like it's. I feel like I have like more questions off of that, but I'm like I don't even want to go down that road.
We'll do an animation episode.
We should do an animation. Actually, when did the style of animation get chosen for Mighty Nein? Is it the same as Vox Machina?
It's the same but different.
The same but different. And
yeah.
And just out of curiosity, what was like? Where did that conversation happen? Like, how did that? Was that like, hey, we want to do something a little different?
Yeah. We knew up front that we wanted to be grittier and more mature and I think more cinematic. You know, Vox Machina it's funnier. It's more comedic. We wanted it to feel, I don't know, more sophisticated. And again, sophistication and grittiness is like the two sort of big catchphrases there. And so we knew we wanted it to coexist in the same world of like, we definitely explored artists or saw art back from artists who like took huge swings, like huge and like crazy anime swings, like graphic novel swings. We saw it all because we wanted to just, you want to react to it with your gut and you want to see like, is the best idea to do a graphic novel version? Is the best idea to do this? Like we shouldn't just shut the door on it. We should see it. But the more we saw the artwork, the more like similar with writing, like your gut points the way. Your gut says, no, it's not that. No, it's not that. And it's probably closer to this, but tweaked slightly until we ended up on a style that I think feels like it still exists in the world of Vox Machina, but also feels different. Because the tone of the show is different.
Yeah. I mean, the tone of the show has to match the style of animation.
Exactly.
Okay. What am I missing? What questions have I missed? I feel like I could talk about this for another 2 hours, but I also don't.
I mean, I love talking about writing and I love talking about D&D. So you've caught me in a place where I could talk for hours.
Okay.
What questions do you have about like the writing or the process of creating a TV show?
I feel like
this.
And I'm not just saying this. I feel like you've kind of like explained this all very well, right? Like just kind of like the blue sky aspect of it. And then you get into the writer's room and then you have, you know, these 8 episodes, everyone's writing their episodes. And it's just like the idea of locking it in and like, and I get it. I understand this. And we've obviously talked about this before, even on the podcast, not this in particular, but just kind of like the writer's room. But I'm just more curious of like, just for the sake of this conversation, is like, you know, it's out in the world now. Like, now what do you do? Are you going to celebrate Tasha? Are you going to head back into another like Mighty Nein thing? Like, what happens now?
You just hope and pray that people like it. I mean, that's it. Like it's like we get more if people like it, and that's it. Like
yeah,
it's like you've birthed your child now, and it now has to go out into the world without you, and you could just hope it's, you know, no one's mean to it.
So this is what we need. We need every Act 2 listener to make sure they share the love and the eyeballs and the screens for the Mighty Nein, which is on Amazon.
November 19th.
Can I ask, is there a second season?
There is a second season.
Okay. Do we know when that comes out? Can we talk about?
We don't. We're working on it now. I can say that.
You're working on it.
Yeah.
Still working to
know.
the end goal of the original ending.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get many seasons to tell it.
Damn. Like 10 seasons?
I mean, I wouldn't mind.
You could go for the next 20 years. I don't care. Is there anything that I'm missing that we should have discussed?
No, I would love if people watched it who are listeners of our podcast. You are writers. I would love your questions as writers, as I feel like they probably have more things than we can think of in this episode about what might come up for you as process questions or choice questions.
Yeah.
Like, why did you make that choice as a writer? Because it's always interesting to hear sort of boots on the ground why you may have made that choice. And then like the answer could be like, oh, we rewrote that 5 times and here's why. And those kinds of things can be really interesting as writers. So I guess that's the next thing. What are your guys' questions?
Yeah, we need questions. Send them in. I will then ask Tasha the questions. And although she likes to give me shit about not talking about myself, Tasha doesn't necessarily like to talk about herself either, but I will make sure, Tasha, that we continue to talk about this because it's a big deal, I think.
You're very sweet.
I still can't believe you text and you were like, we're going to do this other episode, whatever. And I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. This is like if we were in the writer's room and there was like something on the board. I'm like, something just doesn't feel right about this. So like,
my gut is reacting to something.
I feel like we need to talk about the thing.
I was definitely prepared to mow over November and just be like, hey, just if you guys are
for sure
not busy, maybe just check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't we just mention it at the top of the show and just move on? No. And you know what? We might do another episode. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
But I will be watching.
Will you?
I am going to watch. If I haven't already, I'm going to be watching them. This is a Josh promise.
This is going to be interesting to see if I can get Josh Holman.
Yeah, this is
like a high fantasy show.
Of course I'm going to like it. I like Harry Potter.
You like Harry Potter.
I like fantasy.
Yeah.
I like your fantasy. I like the fantasy writing of whatever any script I've ever read. I'm like, I'm fucking in.
That's true. And I've said this before, but I do think you'll watch this and you'll be like, oh, this is the most Tasha thing ever.
I am very excited about that because I'm not just saying this. It's very exciting when you can see like the thumbprint of yourself or a friend or who, and you're like, oh man, that's like, I get it. Like, that's why this is there. And this is like, and I've read enough of your stuff to know kind of your sensibility and your jokes and this and that. So I'm very excited to see the Mighty Nine.
And I'm going to quiz you on the podcast live to see if you catch the greatest movie of all time reference that's in the pilot.
Okay, so this is actually then a question for everyone. Tasha told me there's a reference in the first episode of the greatest movie of all time. She asked me what it was. I have not watched it yet, but I will watch and I will see. My guesses are, knowing Tasha, Ever After, Top Gun, Maverick, Selfishly Back to the Future, or Indiana Jones. Those are the 5 things, and I know it's not Back to the Future, that I think there might be a reference of. Okay.
All right, we did it. All right, I have a real quote of the day. The closest thing to a method I have to offer is this: go forth and do what you please. It really is true. Doing what you please, what pleases you with energy, will lead you to everything. George Saunders. That feels apropos.
Mm-hmm.
Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram or on Twitter at Tasha 3.0.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram.
And as always, the Act 2 podcast is a production of Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.